What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Jesse's World. Today's a big day for the channel. I'm going to be embarking on something I have never done before. I'm going to be learning how to weld. I'm going to be teaching myself how to weld. I've watched hours and hours of videos, and particularly gasless flux core welding, because I actually have a pretty big project and I don't want to screw it up. My cousin Tasha has a 2003, I think it's a 2003 or 2005 Toyota 4Runner, and as many of you probably are already aware, Toyota 4Runners and Toyotas of that generation in general, they have an issue with frame rust, particularly on the right hand side. I don't know why it's the right hand side usually. Left hand side sometimes gets a little bit, but the right hand side will rust out. And hers is getting very bad. Plus I think it's the control arm that goes from the rear axle forward and attaches to the frame has, well, rusted off and is no longer attached. It's currently being held up by a coat hanger. So I have been tasked with fixing her frame and some of the other parts in and around that area. Both of the sway bar links are snapped in half, so that is actually what is in this tiny box here. It's two brand new sway bar links, and then the shock on the right hand side of the 4Runner has also been severed and is just kind of there, and the shock on the left doesn't look great. So that is a set of shocks for the 4Runner. But back to the task at hand. I have been tasked to fix the 4Runner, and in doing so I needed a few things, a few necessities. Maybe not needed, maybe thought it would make this job a little bit easier, and this is what I ended up with. So this is my assortment of goodies for this process, for this repair. That would be my YesWelder Pro 2.0 welding helmet that I have not used yet. That is the Flux 135 welder from YesWelder. It's a 110 flux core welder, gasless flux core welder. And then along the lines of metal prep, I got a 4.5 inch stainless steel stringer bead twisted knot wire wheel, a 4.5 inch crimped wire bevel brush, a 4.5 inch Hercules flap disc, and a 10 pack of Hercules 4.5 inch cutoff wheels. Now, those are all going to be the things that I need to prepare the metal, as well as the cutoff wheels will also be part of prepping the metal, the old metal, cutting out sections that are bad and replacing them with new metal. In addition to that stuff, all the 4.5 inch stuff, I actually got a pneumatic McGraw 3 inch air cut-off tool, because there is some cramped spaces up there, and I do not know if I'm going to be able to get those big discs on my big grinder up there to cut off some of the stuff. So I got the 3 inch air cutoff tool, and then I got the mandrel that's needed to connect up the cutoff discs to it, and I got a pack of, how many are in here? I don't know how many's in here. I think 10. Yeah, it looks like 10. A 10 pack of 3 inch cutoff wheels to go on said cutoff tool. So that's all the prep tools that I ended up buying, stuff for prepping the metal and cleaning the metal and cutting out the old bad metal. So in the realm of protecting myself, I got these welding gloves. They came in a kit along with the welding pliers and cutters, the wire gauge, the metal depth indicator for the gauge on the metal, the welding slag hammer, the wire brush, and I bought a can of spray paint. But all of that stuff right there came in a kit with the gloves. So that's what I got as far as, you know, being able to protect myself. I got the gloves. Oh yeah. I also got a pair of welding sleeves because I am sure I'm going to need them, and a 4-foot by 6-foot welding blanket. Just in case I need to cover anything up or block anything off to prevent it from getting too hot or whatever. So those are the things I got for protecting myself. Now, other items that I bought, I got some of these multi-purpose magnetic V-pad clamps, or not clamps, magnetic, well, they're magnets. They're V-clamps, so you can put them at different angles and hold things in place. There's a 2-inch V-pad that holds 12 pounds of max pull force, and a 2.2-inch V-pad that holds 18 pounds. So they're pretty good. They're pretty strong, actually. They got stuck to the counter at Harbor Freight whenever I was checking out, and the lady had to like rip them off there. And then a 4-piece magnetic welding holders for like right angles and stuff, and just to hold and stick metal on together. So I got that stuff, and then I did some research, and the Hobart 0.35 gasless flux core wire appears to be well, what I need, either this or I might need the 0.30, but for what I've been looking at, researching, it says that the 0.035 is a little bit better for thicker metal. So I'm going to go with that. And then if by chance I need to stick weld, I got some Hobart stick electrodes, 6011. It says deep penetrating, good for dirty, rusty, or painted materials. So my welder over here can do gasless flux core and stick. It has the leads for both. This would be your stick, the stick stinger, so you can do the stick welding, and then the other stinger is in here. That's the flux core stinger. So now all I need to do is wait for the vehicle to get here. My cousin is dropping it off sometime between 12 and 1. It is currently 9 a.m. and I'm going to jack it up, and I'm going to start with removing those busted shocks and bad sway bar links and get the new ones installed, so I can make sure everything is kind of in place where it needs to be before I start welding up and fixing that lower control arm. I'm going to be doing a lot of cutting and measuring and making sure that I put it back in the same position and hopefully in the same at the same height level as as the factory one. But I'm going to do my best. I'll make sure that it's at least solid, and hopefully that it doesn't come back apart. I bought the can of Rust-Oleum spray paint so I could spray paint over everything once I get it done. So we will be back here in a little while whenever the vehicle shows up. Alright guys, so my cousin finally got her 4Runner here. She got delayed, and then I had some things I had to do. So it's later in the evening, and I'm probably not going to get to do much to it tonight. But I did want to show you what I'm working with. So this is the 4Runner. I think she said it was a 2006 or 2003. I don't remember which one. But the next thing I'm going to show you is the main reason for what I'm going to be doing, and that's the underside here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this light on because I probably will need it. Maybe. So that is the frame rail. Down here it's the worst on the bottom. But as you go back this way, you get that. So that is well, being held up by baling wire, and I believe that is the control arm for the rear, so not a good situation. So that's what I'm going to be working on, is trying to fix all this, and I've never welded a day in my life, so we will see how this goes. I'm about to figure it out and get it welded up. Oh yeah, in addition to that, that is one of the shocks. It is snapped off. It's on that. There we go. Snapped off right there. And then there's one of the sway bar links, also snapped off. Is it even here? I think there's supposed to be a sway bar link somewhere around here. Okay, so there's the mount for the sway bar link, the top of it. But I do not see anywhere down here where the rest of it is. So my confusion was for good reason. I could not find the other stabilizer bar that was broken off, the other stabilizer link to the bar. Let's see if I can get you guys under here. So right there, there's supposed to be a bar going in and coming out the other side, and it is completely snapped off. And yeah, that's why I couldn't find the other one. And I looked up online. There is a place called Toyota Parts Express or something like that.com, and that stabilizer bar is $155 to replace. So I got to get that ordered, but in the meantime I've got other things to take care of, and I will work on doing those too. Alright, so this is the point where I'm at right now. We can get a much clearer picture of what's going on back here. So this is shock number 1, and it is snapped off at the top, and this is sway bar stabilizer link number 1, also snapped off at the top, so that'll be fun to get off there too. We've got busted missing stabilizer bar right here. So I'll end up just taking that off because it's going to need to be replaced. And then the other broken stabilizer link top is still there. And this shock is not doing a whole lot better than the other one. So, I mean, it's still there technically, but it's not looking too great up there at the top. So that'll be fun to get off as well. So it's the next day. I worked until like 10 o'clock last night on this freaking 4Runner. So what I discovered is that first of all, my cousin was having trouble with what felt like this caliper releasing. That caliper slide or guide pin or whatever appeared to be frozen in place. So I got that freed up, cleaned out this whole thing because it was caked in brake fluid and different things like that. I could not find a leak anywhere. I did, however, discover that the inside, this spring here, is one of the springs that holds the brake shoes, because the emergency brake cable goes in here to the inner drum brakes in here. One of the springs on this back shoe back here has come off. It's not going to affect whether the emergency brakes work or not, but it might create a situation where the shoe rubs on the outside of the drum But back to the other issues at hand. The messed up and broken sway bar link is gone. The broken shock, this one here, is out. The shock on the other side is out, and the other sway bar link is out. The sway bar itself, as you can see, is very rusted right here. Well, it was so rusted on this side that it snapped off, and so there was no sway bar on that side to connect up to. There's the rest of the sway bar link, but all of the bad parts are out. And so now I'm just going to start working on the rust situation. I have already gotten under here a little bit and started pulling some of the rust out from the frame, and I'm about to get a cutting wheel and start cutting out small sections of it. I don't want to do anything that's going to cause an issue with maybe causing the frame to collapse or something like that. So I'm going to cut out little pieces at a time, fix them, and then cut out other pieces. Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. So all the bad pieces are off. I've got new pieces to put on. I had to order a new stabilizer sway bar, and it was $200. Of course, I'm not paying for all of the parts for this. My cousin and her mother are. So my aunts, they're paying for the repairs, and I'm just taking care of it. So they gave me the money. I ordered the part. It'll be here either tomorrow or Friday. So, yeah, I'm just going to get at it. I'm going to start cutting out pieces of the frame and putting new pieces in. Actually, before I get to cutting stuff out, I pulled all the baling wire or coat hangers and stuff off of this piece that was holding it up, making it to where it wouldn't drag or anything, and got the wire off. I'm going to use my impact and a wrench here and actually take this piece right here off of this lower control arm, and that way I just have it off and out of the way, and I can start working on trying to figure out how to get it positioned back in the car correctly. Well, that sucked. I think that took me about an hour to do. I had to try to get the piece here that mounts to off of the bottom of the car. Thankfully, right here where this broke off, there is a spot on the car where this matches up 100% completely. So as long as I don't cut that out, I will have an exact placement to put this piece back in and weld it up. I'll clean up all of these edges along the front and the sides and get them all cleaned up. That way I have a good, nice, clean place to weld to, and I'll get it put back up in there after I redo some of the other metal sections that are kind of messed up. But that was good news to see. Alright, it has been like an hour or two that I've been out here working on this. I took a sniplet of the underside of the car. I think I already showed this in another section too, but of what it looked like under here before I got started. This is what it looks like now. So I have cut out all of this section here, all the way down to here, and I have ground back some of it. It looks like I have some more grinding to do based on that. It's kind of dirty still, but I got the flap disc here, and I'm cleaning all of the surface areas of everything. There's going to be some stuff, like the stuff back there. I'm not going to be able to fix that. That's underneath of the cross member here in the back. I'm not going to be able to fix it. I'm just trying to prolong the life of this truck, or of this 4Runner, not do a full restoration on it. So I'm going to make a little triangle piece to put in here, fill that gap right there, and then I'll just work my way around still have all of this back here to figure out too. I've already gotten that pile of rust out of the frame rail, and that was mostly all up in here, up along this edge right here. But I got it all out, and I cleaned this part out in here pretty good. No, trust me, it's cleaned out. I'm gonna get the my air tool and put my air tool up there and blow anything that I didn't get out with my hand out with the air tool. And then you know, I should have done a while ago is make sure I actually know how to weld. So we're gonna figure this out. I'm gonna get a piece of the metal that I bought, and I'm gonna cut off a couple pieces of it, and I'm gonna learn how to weld them together before I start tackling the truck. I've got the welder set up. I've already got the wire installed and ran through to the gun. It was pretty simple and straightforward. It is already set to the 0.35 wire, which is what is in it. And according to the book, I need to, it says 262 for the speed, wire speed, but well, it won't go to 262. So we'll try 260. And apparently the voltage adjusts automatically with the wire speed. There is a way to adjust it plus or minus 3 volts right here if it's not seeming like it's working right. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I can see really well out of this mask. It's got a really big viewing window. Alright, let's see if I can do this or not, and we'll see how shitty I do this. Well, it's not perfect, but not bad for my first ever weld. Definitely, it penetrated pretty good, I think. I actually think I did better toward the beginning here than I did toward the end. I was getting nervous that I was going too slow, that I was going to burn through the metal. And so I sped up a little bit at the end, but it looks like it pooled a little bit better at the beginning. And this piece is very hot. As you can see, the penetration here, it did penetrate through the backside and wore off the coating that was on here. I forgot to even clean the metal, actually. I was going to. I put this wheel on here on my grinder to clean the metal, and I forgot to. So there's the first pass. I'll probably lay a couple of passes flat on the surface right here just to play around with it and see if I can, well, make it look halfway decent. But if I can make all the welds look like that on the truck, I'll be happy. So I've been playing around with some of the welder settings. The booklet said that for this thickness of metal that I should be welding somewhere between 262 feet rate and like a 304. So I turned it up to, I think it was like 302 or 300 or something like that. So this piece is still very hot, but yeah, still very hot. But so this that one on the top right there, the top weld, was the second one that I did. It was still at the like 264 or whatever, and then I turned it up a little bit on that one, and I did I think it was like 280 something. And then I did it again, but I turned it up to 300 and something, and I think that one definitely came out looking better than all of the rest. It's not perfect, but it definitely will stick metal to metal. I'm going to clamp this thing in the vise and see if I can pull that weld apart, and see if it held up good or not, or if, you know, maybe, I don't know. It seems like it held up good, but I'm gonna see if I can pull it apart or not. Please don't mind the mess behind my vise. I have a bunch of cleaning up stuff in here to do, so it's a very big mess. I think the weld is strong enough. Trying to break it apart, and instead of breaking apart, and I didn't even weld it all the way across, the metal is bending. So I think I think it was a success. You can tell up here too, see where the weld stops at. See if we can see in there. I don't know. All I know is that is strong enough to bend the metal instead of breaking apart. I would say that that's probably pretty good. So I'll show you what I got so far as putting the metal back on the vehicle. So I have that piece of flat bar there all cut up to match the area that I cut out of the vehicle. So I'm going to weld that in and then start working on doing the rest of it. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be anything near what the factory was, but it's going to be strong again after this. My biggest problem right now is that the only flat bar I could find locally isn't big enough to fill this big hole right here. So I'm going to have to improvise, maybe take two pieces of flat bar and weld them together. But I'll get to that whenever it's time. Oh, for now, I guess I'll go ahead and I get the battery disconnected on the truck, because I don't know if you guys know, but you're not supposed to weld on a vehicle, on a frame with the battery connected. It can cause electrical issues. So I'm going to take care of that before I forget. Good thing I'm taking the battery terminals off anyway. Look, there's some corrosion on here. Get rid of that before wintertime gets here. Well, I've got the negative terminal of the battery post off, and whenever I was doing it, I had to, I was wrenching, and the first time that I wrenched, this happened, and I was like, wait, why is it moving? It's not, whoever was in here last didn't use the battery tie downs to actually, hold the battery down in place. So I'll fix that. And it's not frozen up. This nut is moving freely. So I'll go ahead and fix that and actually secure the battery down. So I'm going to clean up this control arm mount. I already did the other side. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but I already did the other side. So I'm going to get this side knocked out and then move on. Guys, I want to apologize in advance. I have no way of getting the camera underneath of this 4Runner so you guys can see what I'm doing. But I'm about to tack up the first scabbed in piece that I made up, and this is what it looks like right now. So that's the first piece. I have it set up where I want it, and hopefully those bigger gaps right there I can fill in without blowing through too much. Yeah, I'm just gonna get at it. I don't have any kind of a way to set you guys up so you can watch me do it, but you've seen thousands of other people on YouTube weld stuff. Hopefully mine won't suck Alright, I already know you guys are going to roast me in the comments. Yeah, my first weld looked pretty decent, that butt joint weld or corner weld or whatever the hell you call it, but things did not go so great welding the first patch panel piece into the bottom of the 4Runner. It's in, it's not going anywhere, it's just not pretty at all, and I struggled with having a lot of blow through on some of the thinner sections of the vehicle. So again, I know you guys are gonna roast me. All right, so again, this is my first time welding anything, like for real welding anything. I had a lot of blow through over here, and I kept trying to stack welds to fix it, and it wasn't working because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a noob. I'm less than a noob. But I did figure out that if I start on the thicker metal and work my way up, it doesn't blow through as much. But I didn't figure that out until I was over here in this area. And this stuff here it was the last things that I was welding. I was definitely getting better at it. Having to lay on my side under the vehicle on my creeper is definitely not helping matters. I had a little bit of blow through there. But, you know, and that was also one of the last welds that I did right there. Which, like I said, I know it's not pretty, but is it going to go anywhere? No. I'm going to grind it all down and make it look nicer, but I know it sucks. And I kind of figured it was going to not be pretty. I was not expecting to have this much blow through over here, but the metal is pretty thin on the other side, the original metal. I'm going to have to do some research on how to possibly combat that or fix it or whatever. Maybe if I put a steel plate behind it, like I've got some flat plates, like some thinner but still good flat plate. Maybe if I put the bar back there or put some bar back there, I can weld to it and have like a base layer behind it. I don't know, but I'll figure out what to do. It's just, I know it's not pretty. Have fun roasting me in the comments, guys. Again, first time welding anything, you know, what can you expect? I've never been to formal classes or had any training. I just watched a bunch of YouTube videos and said, yeah, let me do that. But it's solid. It's not going to go anywhere. And I'll make it look nicer with the grinder. And check it out. It looks less shitty when you take the wire brush to it, clean it off. Still shitty, but it looks less shitty. Alright, yeah, that's all I got. So it's the end of day 3 of working on the 4Runner for my cousin. I'm not as far along as I had hoped that I would be, but I'm also battling the learning curve of figuring out how to weld. So this is where I'm currently at. Alright, so I was able to kind of fill in my blowouts. I started grinding it down, but my flap disc is getting kind of low. So all that's been ground down a little bit. And it doesn't look too bad. I got this piece welded in from the other side. It looks like total shit. But I also don't have the room. Oh, crap. Let's see if I can get under here and get a good view for you. Alright. Looks like total shit. And it's not welded all the way around, but it's welded enough that it's more stable than it was when there's a giant chunk missing. Look. So there was a big piece missing right here. So there's at least something there now. So I got those two pieces in there, and I'm working on, there's basically 4 big sections that needed to be fixed. and I'm working on the third one right now. So this piece, well, this is the width of the flat bar that I could find, and the holes that I have to fill are bigger than that width. So, so as you see, I welded these together. Welds don't look too terrible, considering, you know, this is my first day of doing this crap. And as far as penetration, if you look at the other side, you can tell that weld penetrated into the metal pretty good. So my goal right now is, like I said, I got these two pieces of flat bar welded together. So this width here is the same as this width here. But what I'm going to basically do is I need to cut a little bit off of this end here, because I need a section that's from about here all the way up to about right here, somewhere in that area. So I'm going to cut it off to the right length, and then I'm going to slice. See, it's going to be from this side in. So at that point, I'm going to make a mark all the way down, and I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to cut it up to there and then go all the way down, and just basically make this width right here what I need it to be. Now, once I do get that cut, I'm going to have to bend it also, because about 8 to 10 inches down the bar, the bar itself goes like this. So the frame goes like this. So I'm going to have to bend this flat bar to kind of contour and match that frame bend. Alright guys, so this 4Runner is kicking my ass right now. I did get the sway bar in like I was supposed to. I did not come between 11 and 2 like the email said it would. It got here at about 6 o'clock, but it's now 8 o'clock and it is in and installed and ready for stabilizer links to go on, but I am going to wait to put them on until I get all of that fixed, because I don't want to have anything else possibly in my way while I'm doing it. But it is in, and good news is it looks like it is a thicker, much better material than the original one that Toyota put on here was. I did compare it with the one over here on the ground, and it is the same shape and appears to be the same length and everything. It did fit, although it took me quite some effort to figure out how to weasel that bar with all those twists and turns and everything up in there. But it's in and ready to go. Stabilizer links will be easy to install. But yeah, off to finishing up that now, hopefully. So it's day 4 of working on the 4Runner. I've been out here since about 11 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock now, so I've been out here for about 4 hours. And I mean, I think I actually can say that I got quite a bit accomplished. The front half of the frame is done. And yes, oh crap, sorry. Some of it looks like total dog crap, but I'm gonna show it to you anyway. Alright, this part you already saw. That's where I tried to fill it in because there was a big old gap there. I figured it better to be a gap filled in and look ugly than not filled in. Maybe I'm wrong, but whatever. So I have since put that plate on the bottom there, and then I got another plate. I had to weld right here in the middle, or sort of in the middle. I had to weld 2 of my flat bars together. And then I put this in. There was a huge gap right here, as you can still see in the background behind those welds, and I had to figure out how to fill it in to get the welds to touch right there, because I wanted to make sure that it's as good as it can be for my skill level. Now over here I did the same thing. It wasn't quite as big of a gap, but I was able to kind of bridge the two pieces together right here. Now over here I had to be underneath the vehicle. Like, I was like all the way up over here underneath the exhaust and everything, trying to weld this side over here. And so I could not see hardly anything. I was basically flying blind. With a little bit, I could see a little bit, but so it doesn't look great, but it should hold up nice and strong, I'm sure. So that means that the front half of the truck, front half of the truck here is all done, as far as what I'm gonna do at least. My first welding project, and I know it looks like crap, guys, so please be not too terrible in the comments. But now I have to tackle this, which, as you can see, I've already started on. I've welded two flat bars together and then cut them down to the proper width and started fitting it into the vehicle. I'm going to have to use some of the existing rusty metal to weld to, so I can get this in here right, because I do not want to touch this right here. This is my guide for how to put that back on right here. That spot right there broke off exactly where it needs to go, and so that spot right here, let's see if I can point to it, that right here is what I need to stay. So I'm going to leave all that rusty junk in there, because I want to make sure to get this stabilizer control arm back in the appropriate position. So I've got that piece all cut up and ready to be welded in, and I've got one for that hole back there in the back cut and ready to go in, and one for this hole up front cut and ready to go in. Not exactly sure what I'm going to do with the rest of this hole back here. I'll probably try to use the scrap pieces and bend them or something and get something in there to support that right there. If not, I think it'll be okay, but I'm going to try to do something with it. So, oh crap, that's where I'm at with all this. Yesterday was kind of a wash. I think I only got to work on it for 3 or 4 hours total, and yeah, today I've been out here for a little while and I've gotten a lot more accomplished, and now I'm going to get back to it. So I will catch you guys back up here in not too long. Oh yeah, there was one more thing I wanted to say before I get back to welding and fabricating what I can. If you can pay somebody to do this job, pay them to do it. If you have a lift, might not be so bad. I'm having to do this off the ground, off of my little creeper, and it sucks. I have bad angles. The shirt I was wearing yesterday, I burned several holes in the right shoulder because the angles that I had to be in to get to some of the welds, I couldn't do anything about it. Sparks and crap were falling down and landing on my shoulder and burned a hole in my shirt. If you know somebody that has a lift and you want to do it yourself, that would be better. I don't know anybody with a lift. Oh, sorry, I just took a drink of water right before this. But yeah, if you have a lift, it's not so bad, I'm sure. It's just I have no way to get into many of the angles that I really need to be in to do the welds that I need to do. So I'll leave you with that. I gotta get back to work. So it's the end of day 4. I was out here quite a while today. I'm only not further along because it started raining on me and I had to stop. But yeah, I keep getting stuff all over my nose. Anyway, this is where I'm at with this project. I am nearing the finish line. So there's the newly reconstructed rear frame rail. And yes, I know my welds suck. I'm sorry, I'm doing the best I can, but I'm under the truck doing all of these welds. I'm at bad angles. I can't, yeah, it's my first project, so I know they suck, but that's pretty sturdy. That's not going anywhere. That's 1/8 inch plate. So the only thing I really have left to do right now, and I just lost it, is well, first of all, I ran out of flex core wire, which is why I'm stopping right now. Otherwise, I'd probably go ahead and just try to finish this up tonight. But so right here, go away. I don't know if I can get in here or not. All right, let's zoom in right there. That plate, I was welding it when I ran out of flux core. I was trying to get that plate welded to the rusty stuff there, and ran out of flux core. But well, since I can't really do any actual welding right now, I've got this big gap right here, this big hole, and I fabricated this little plate to go over this hole. So it goes over this hole, and I bent it up in several areas so that it will kind of conform around the existing frame rail. And I'm going to weld that all the way around to that. It will leave this gap, this hole right here, but that's going to be fine. I'm not worried about that. It's going to be structurally strong still. But yeah, so those two things need to be welded in, this finished up, and putting that in there, and then I'm going to call the frame rail done. The only thing left is putting this up here. Once I get some more flux core tomorrow, I will weld this bad boy in here and get that all finished up. That's the reason for this plate. So that needs to rest on something to be welded on, and there was a big gap right there. So I double stacked some plates and welded them in there, and now I have something that whenever I go to put this back on here, I can actually weld to. Alright, so I'm going to get these tools put away for the night and probably try to eat something. I'm hungry. So it's day 5. All goes well today. I should be done. I just finished welding in the last couple pieces of patch panel, and they still don't look pretty, but so I finished welding that right there, that across to connect that piece to the frame rail. And yes, it's just a bunch of tack welds, but I find that if I try to run a bead all the way along, that it just burns a hole through the existing thinner frame rail material. But if I start the pool of weld on the 1/8 inch plate and kind of move it up, it ends up binding with the frame rail plate or frame rail metal. which is why a lot of these are just tack welds, because trying to run a bead would burn through instead of connecting to. And so I just did a whole bunch of tack welds for most of this. I did run a couple beads along here. I've already sanded them down, make them look a little bit better, but mostly like those took really well the old metal to the new metal, doing it the way that I was doing, and made it to where it bound good and connected well with the original frame rail. And then I welded this plate in, a couple of them, like that one right there, that's the lower one right there, kind of started to, I guess I got it too hot and it started to melt and fall down and then froze in place like it is. I did end up, I think I burned through back here a little bit. Yeah, right there I burned through a little bit. But that was really thin. As you can tell, it's all rusted around it. And it ended up burning through. I'm not going to worry about that. This is still going to be way stronger than the original rusted out frame that was there. It'll probably last a lot longer. I've not cleaned these welds off yet with the wire brush. Let's grab this wire brush. This emergency brake cable's in my way. I'm gonna have to clean it and come back. Alright. Let's see if we can get a good view in there. Alright, so let's zoom in. So did you see the tacks went up and binded in with the existing metal for most of it. Some of them over here kind of didn't. Some of those, I mean, they still did a little bit, but they're rough. But as I said before, this is not a restoration. This is just a make sure this car stays on the road kind of situation. But I've rebuilt all of this along here, trying to make sure it curved into the original frame rail the way that it's supposed to. I'd say that's not too bad for an amateur. And then over here, this whole section was all rusted out. I'll throw up a picture at some point showing you guys what the original looks like. But at this point, the only thing I have left to do is mount the control arm bracket to the bottom of the car, and then put the control arm on it, install the shocks and the stabilizer links, and I am complete. Although I am going to try to fix her exhaust, so maybe not completely complete, but I'll bring you guys back. I did notice, I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. Yeah, here we go. So the exhaust had been severed right here where you see the white. So this right hand bank exhaust was just flopping, and I didn't get it perfect. There's a small little pinhole right there, but I also could not get the top. So there is going to be a little bit of a gap, but it's going to be better than it was. There was a huge hole right there, and I filled it all in with weld. So the other thing is the exhaust. It's well, it's not great, but it's missing the piece from there to there. And I do have a piece of flexi pipe that I have no need for right now. It's a really long piece of flexi pipe. I think it's 10 feet. No, not 10 feet. Like a 4-foot section of flexi pipe. So I think I'm going to try to cut some of it off, grind up that entrance to the exhaust right there a little bit, and get some fresh material on it, and then weld that flexi pipe from there to there, so that the exhaust will actually be working the way it's supposed to. I am expecting in the next like hour and 20 minutes roughly, some rain, so I need to get to it. I'm done. I finished. It's complete. As complete as it's gonna get today, by me at least. And holy crap, I've got stuff all over my face. Anyway, so thankfully I finished everything up on this side outside where I needed to stand as possible. So the new stabilizer links are in, the new dirty sway bar is in, the new shocks are in on both sides, and everything has been tightened down. Underneath, the, I guess, control arm support bracket has been re-welded on, and the bolt is in through the support arm. Did have to put it in the opposite direction that it was in, but I don't think that's going to make much of a difference. But either way, it's in. Same thing with the other side. Stabilizer link, both bolts are tightened there. Shock, both bolts are tightened there. And as a surprise, and she did ask me about it, my cousin, this is my cousin's truck if I haven't said that, but she asked me if I could do anything with the exhaust. And I already found that spot in the front where it was cracked, and I showed you guys, but I welded it back up as best as I can. I can't get the top of it, but I don't know what I did what I can. I got 75% of it welded back together, but delete everything about me getting under here. On the back, that whole section that was missing, I welded a piece of flexi pipe on there. I had to, the original piece that I cut was that much too short, so I ended up having to weld two flexi pipe pieces together right here in the middle, or not really the middle, but I had to weld them together there, and then weld this onto there, and that is not a great weld, but it is better than what was there before, which was nothing. And then I put a couple of tacks up in here. I didn't want to fully weld that around because it's not even supposed to be welded in there. It's supposed to use a clamp to clamp the two pieces together. But I just wanted to have something. It stays on its own, so that's not an issue. I'm not worried about it. But I got at least something there. I hopefully, I mean, there's quite a big gap there. I might get back under here. I couldn't see this at the angle that I was welding. I'll probably get back under here and try to fill that gap in, because everything else looks pretty good all the way around, I think. Everything that I could reach, at least. So yeah, I'll probably get the welder back out for a second and try to fill that hole in right there. But welding this thin metal to that thick metal was not easy. That's mostly why it looks like crap. I also haven't cleaned it off yet with the wire brush, but I'm gonna grab the welder real quick and try to fill in that spot, and then I am done. It's been a long couple of days. I think all in all, I probably put 20 plus hours into doing this. I probably would have been able to do it in 12 or less if I was able to do it on a lift, or if I had a lift, or if I had a proper shop of any kind. But I did it. I've never welded before this. First time ever using that little YesWelder that I got, and I tell you what, guys, YesWelder Flex 135 Pro. Literally the only issue that I seem to have with it is that every once in a while the feed rate would be a little weird, like it would almost lunge. But I'm thinking that might also be because I think it said it was only like a 30% duty cycle for this welder. I don't remember what the box said on it, but if it's only 30% and you're welding a whole bunch, I think it was having issues with the feed speed because I was like welding a whole bunch all at once, and then it would be like, oh, you need to slow down because you're getting to the threshold of your duty cycle for this machine. So because most of the time it was fine, but it would be the times when I was welding long stretches or for long periods without stopping that I would notice that it had wire feed speed issues. So aside from that, it worked. Just for, you know, reference or whatever, I was using the Hobart Flux Core 0.035 wire to do this whole thing. I did end up having to go buy some more today because I ran out last night. Otherwise I probably would have finished this before I went to bed last night, but by the time I ran out of wire, everything was closed, so I had to wait till today. But anyway, that's it. That's all I'm gonna say. Job done. Frame rail, new sway bar stabilizer links, new shocks, and new control arm bracket remounted so that it's not just flopping around. It was just, as I showed you before, it was hanging there off of coat hangers. So yeah, all done. Guys, if you get anything from this video, like, share, subscribe. Anybody who is a welder out there, let me know how I did. I know that it wasn't perfect. It doesn't look pretty. It probably, there's a lot of porosity in some of the welds, and I understand that, I get that, but the goal, like I said, was not to do a restoration or to make it look pretty. It was to keep it on the road. My cousin needs her vehicle and she can't afford to get another one right now, and between the broken shock, the two broken stabilizer links, the broken sway bar, and the control arm mount not functioning right, the ass end of the car was swaying all over the road whenever she would go above like 35-40 miles an hour. So hopefully this makes the ride more stable, gets it back on the road for a long time to come. I am going to hit up all of the exposed metal that I put on with black spray paint because I bought some just for that purpose. See you on the next one.